felting, you can actually get different types of needle felt needles, and they are usually referred to in gauges, and that refers to the thickness and size of the needle and the barbs at the end. So the lower gauge needles, which are usually things like a 36 gauge or a 38 gauge, are usually stronger, and it makes them much more suitable for starting off your piece. So if you are really beginning your needle felting, trying to make the base structure there, that's definitely the best needle there because it's far more durable to start doing your rough shaping. And then it goes up to things like a 40 or 42 gauge. So these high gauge needles are far more fine, and they're a lot more for delicate details in your needle felting. So if you're doing, let's say, a little animal and you're wanting to do little eyes on them, or the detail in their fur markings or something like that, you'll want to use a higher gauge needle, so something like a 40 or 42 gauge, because they are much more fine and more delicate. You wouldn't normally want to use these higher gauge needles for starting your project, because when you are shaping, it's a lot more kind of rough work there. You're working really to mesh those fibres together on a larger scale, and they're not really suitable for that. So when you start your project with your needle felt shaping, I would recommend starting somewhere with a 36 or a 38 gauge, and then working your way up to a 40 or 42 gauge when you are doing much more of the delicate work. Now you can also get different needle types, such as spiral, star and reverse. So I have a 38 gauge spiral, and the spiral needles, their barbs twist around at the end to felt quicker. And this gives a neater finish, so it minimises the surface holes that you can get with other needles. The spiral is not so good for the bulk sculpting work. So I also use a 38 gauge star, and this is good for firmer felting, coarser walls and joining pieces together. It can be good for slightly finer details, but it's a bit more of an all-rounder. And lastly, I also have a 38 gauge reverse. Now this needle, the barbs go actually in the other direction. They pull the fibres out rather than in. So this is really good for that fluffy finish on a well felted piece. So if you want that kind of fluffy sheep wool effect, if you're making an animal and you want them to have fluffy fur, the reverse needle is great for that.